So when the moon is just starting to come out of the dark phase, coming into the new moon, the first week of that, it goes crazy and the fish are really on the boil. They really bite.
And Skylar is taking us back to Oxford as it looked and sounded in the Jurassic period.
166 million years ago, Oxford looked a little different than how we know it now. This was during the Jurassic era, where mudflats stretched for miles, and across them, massive dinosaurs left their mark.
That's all coming up here on Science at 1.
Wow, so we have an interesting setup for us today.
Yes.
So this is the last Science at 1 that we're having of this term.
Unfortunately.
Sadly, but
Sadly.
we do get a break for the Christmas break. But before that, we are all finishing up our radio packages. And so that is what the main stories will be today. We will be listening to people's packages.
Yeah, it'll definitely be more creative than I think the last few years. And I'm excited to hear everyone's work.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So should we get into it?
Yeah, let's get into it.
All right. So our first song today is The Whole Woman by Anna von Hauswolf and Iggy Pop.
that you've made, but I know it in my heart, and I knew it from the start. When I see you, I lose my face, I lose my time, I lose my day. Although reality is far away, when you say my name,
I want you to be here. I want to see you. I want you near. I wanna touch you, smell your air, feel your lips everywhere.
somewhere in the dawn, I have hoped to see your face, but you're stuck inside a lie. I hope you'll carry my name. Oh, the ocean in our hearts, will it bring us more apart? If I tell you
That was The Whole Woman by Anna van Hoswolf and Iggy Pop.
In October, Storm Amy struck the northwest coast of Great Britain, damaging coastal communities and breaking open a salmon farm, releasing almost 75,000 fish into the wild. The incident has raised questions about how storms are reshaping aquaculture and how they're affecting the fishermen who work at sea. We sent Rio to investigate what happened and what it means for the future of fisheries.
Storm Amy toppled a tree, crushing it completely. An amber warning bringing winds of up to 80 miles per hour. Coastlines felt the brunt of the storm.
When Storm Amy hit the northwest coast of Great Britain, it left a trail of damage, reaching right into Scotland's sheltered waters.
A piece of piping, I believe, that ripped through one of the nets that these salmon are kept in Loch Linney, and that rip in the net then released these salmon that were in this net and released them into the natural environment.
That's Will Perry. He is a postdoctoral researcher at Cardiff University, researching freshwater ecology, and the event he's describing really did happen. 75,000 salmon escaped an aquaculture in Scotland.
The real issue with these farm fish escaping normally happens during storm events where there is a catastrophic failure in one of the nets, and these larger holes release tens of thousands of fish. So these nets contain 100,000 fish easily, and each salmon farm can contain multiple nets. So there's lots of fish kept in these nets that are in the open ocean, essentially, or in the open environment. And so when they're battered by things like storms, these accidents happen, and problems like tears in the nets can release these fish into the wild.
And how exactly do these farms operate?
What will happen is that salmon have a freshwater life stage, and then they have a marine life stage. So what happens is these Atlantic salmon come from broodstock that are reared on land. But then when those salmon get to a certain size and they're ready then to transfer into the ocean or the marine life stage in a process called smoltification, these fish are then moved to the marine cages, and that's where they're reared up until they're harvested.
Much of the salmon we eat comes from aquaculture, an industry valued at over $14 billion globally. When a large number of selectively bred salmon escape, it can impact whole ecosystems. Environmental marine scientist Dr. Magnus Johnson from the University of Hull explains the scale of these impacts.
One release can release more salmon from a salmon farm than there are actually native salmon in a particular area. So they can have a fairly critical impact. They generally won't reproduce with the local salmon because they're quite often what's called triploid, and they're not fertile. But they still compete with fish in that local area, and that can have all sorts of bad impacts on the local ecosystem.
So beyond salmon farms, what other types of aquacultures are at risk when storms hit?
Coastal lobster pots in the water, actually, they're quite vulnerable. But oyster farms, yeah, if it's in the wrong place, they can get hammered by a really good storm. A really good storm, big storm, can have massive impacts on coastal environments. And sometimes these natural impacts, are more significant than anything that we can do. Whereas areas that are regularly impacted by weather, by tides, currents, storms and things, those are good places to fish because they're already being impacted. And what the habitat and the animals that are there already are the animals and habitat that's likely to survive from impacts from fishermen.
It seems like we understand a lot about how farms are impacted, but do we know how fish behavior changes during storms?
It depends where you are. It obviously changes in quantity close to the coast because you can't fish. When you do survey work in coastal areas, you can't get in the water and dive or put an ROV in the water unless the weather conditions are fairly benign, really. And so I think we don't understand an awful lot about what fish do when the weather's rough. You know, when they're having to deal with constantly moving water. Maybe they move to deeper water, I don't know. So we do know for some species such as skates, and they actually hunker down on the sand and they make themselves so they can't be blown around, you know, sort of latch themselves onto the seabed. But we don't know what happens with a lot of other species. So bad weather will impact on fish, but close to shore, that means they're not going to be fished because the boats can't get out.
I have just arrived in Rye Harbour on a day where a grey sheet of clouds cover the sky. There's still a lot we don't understand about how fish respond to storms, so I'm hoping as I jump aboard to meet a fisherman who deals with these conditions every day can bridge the gap. Hey there.
Hi Rio, good morning. Welcome aboard my boat. My name's Richard Hatch.
Well, thank you for having me on board, and I wanted to ask, what's the reality of being out at sea during a storm?
Well, it's a decision. It's an owner's decision, commercially and privately, and the main aspect of the day is safety. But the fishing for marlin and tuna and that type of pelagic fish, I've always experienced very good catches during those weather. Very difficult to catch in. I normally find in sports fishing, in those rough conditions, it's difficult to fish. It's hard on the people that are fishing, but it's usually a good bite. It's usually a very, very good bite. The bite happens on the dark side of the moon. So when the moon is just starting to come out of the dark phase, coming into the new moon, the first week of that, it goes crazy and the fish are really on the boil. They really bite. And other times you can have situations in rough weather like that where the fishing dies. It dies a death for about 2 or 3 days afterwards. Nothing's really happening, and it's hard work, and without looking at a moon phase you can't equate to it. So it's just one of those things you haven't experienced how your experience worked.
Storms are becoming more frequent and more damaging, but it seems like the fishing industry is resilient.
Fishermen, especially Scots fishermen that work off the Atlantic or in the northern areas of the North Sea, these guys are tough as nails, and their boats are built for the conditions that they fish in. Even if it doesn't get bigger storms, we're going to have them more frequently. The problem is climate change. We have to do less. It's an industry where somebody can do well by working hard. As long as you're happy to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and go and pull lobster pots out of the water, you can make a decent living. So you can make a decent living as a fisherman or fisherwoman. There are lots of women involved in the industry now. So it is an industry where there's opportunity for people, and it's a good industry to work in if you don't mind working hard.
That was Rio and his package on how storms can impact fishing, coastal environments, and fish behavior.
That was fun. I really enjoyed that.
Wow, yeah.
I like fishes, so it felt very relevant to me.
And that it's connected to the moon. That's super interesting.
Yeah, I never thought about that.
No,
it's like,
me neither.
Feels like something so distant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
should we move on to the next one?
Yeah, let's move on to the next one then. So next on our playlist today, we have Angel by Kai Bosch.
Call it my little secret, but he's not the one.
was Angel by Kai Bosch. So, imagine this. You're lying in a hospital bed, and you can think clearly, you can feel everything, but your voice just doesn't come out. That sounds like the start of a sci-fi film, but for some people in intensive care, that's everyday life.
There's a lab full of tangled wires, plastic head models, and students staring at brain scans, trying to answer one simple question. If speech gets stuck between the brain and the outside world, is there another way to let it through?
We follow a group of young neuroscientists and engineers who are trying to get closer to that answer.
So Scarlett, as a busy student, what do you usually do in your spare time?
Well, I guess I crochet and I play the piano. What about you?
I just play video games, to be honest.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
Well, for this group of students at Imperial, they do engineering and neuroscience in their spare time.
Yep, welcome to Imperial's Neurotech Society. Jay has been for a look.
In one corner of the Imperial College main campus, there's a room that looks quite chaotic. You might first notice the tangle of wires on the tables, laptops open on brain scans, and the giant model of a human head watching quietly from the corner. I'm spending a day at Imperial's student-run Neurotech Society. Damir Ahmed is a bioengineer and the society's founder. Before he started building devices for other people's brains, Damir was mostly trying to make sense of his own.
I was diagnosed with ADHD. It doesn't sound crazy, but for me it was pretty bad. I felt like trapped in my own body. I really struggled to live intentionally. I wanted to fix whatever I had at the time, and I discovered neurotech. Merging my engineering background and my passion for the brain, it seemed like a fitting option.
On one of the benches, Farida Abdulsalami is wiring together a set of tiny channels and electrodes. She's working on brain chemistry and traumatic brain injury.
Lab group mostly focuses on traumatic brain injury patients. They do other stuff as well, but I guess that's the corner that I find myself in. The neurochemical monitoring is not just for the sake of it, it's to be able to help with the treatment of traumatic brain injury patients. So we're trying to measure things that would be important for the clinicians to know.
Faridat is working on an early warning system for the brain, a system that uses brain chemistry to predict potential abnormalities.
So we're basically detecting multiple things. For neurochemical monitoring, we're detecting stuff from the brain, basically molecules that are produced in the brain.
Some of the brains she cares about are only a few floors up, where the question is not just whether the brain is alive, but whether the person inside, who may appear to have low levels of consciousness, can still be heard.
Hey, my name is Sean, and I'm studying clinical neuroscience. I spend a lot of time in the ICU team. Normally in intensive care, we don't start by talking about brain implants, but we do come across the same question a lot of the time. Like, for example, is there anything else we can do for them? I think a lot about one patient. He had a car accident and his vocal cords were really damaged, so he became completely mute. He had his wife with him there all the time, and she tried to guess what he was trying to say. Like, are you cold? Are you in pain? Do you want water? But to be honest, a lot of the time we were probably wrong. So when I hear about the idea of decoding silent speech through brain implants, I'm excited about that because I'm picturing, that man and his wife and how different it would have been if we were able to hear exactly what his brain was trying to say.
Perhaps the most hopeful part is that the kind of future Sean imagines is already being tested in a clinical trial thousands of miles away at UC Berkeley and UC San Francisco. The hospital room is bright and almost too quiet. A woman sits in a wheelchair with her hand folded. On the side of her head, a thin cable disappears into a small port in her skull and runs down to a computer on the table.
We just trained some new models yesterday, so we might need to test it.
Her name is Anne Johnson. Years ago, a brainstem stroke took away her ability to speak. Since then, she's painstakingly spelled out every sentence by moving her eyes. But finally, after 18 years, she has a voice.
I know that, but you can now. You love me that, and
in front of her, a digital avatar appears on the screen. It's a face that looks just like hers, and a synthetic voice based on recordings of Anne's old speech. All she needs is to sync the sentence, and the avatar will start to talk.
is that they I and smooth. What? would you say?
Back here at Imperial's Neurotech Society, they are tackling similar questions. When speech gets stuck somewhere between the brain and the outside world, is there another way to let it through? Damir is approaching the question from another angle.
EEG essentially is the way we measure brain signals externally from the skull. Your brain is like a massive electrical circuit board, and we detect that using electrodes. And it's quite bulky and it's very uncomfortable, so I thought, why don't we just make the form factor as something as that can bond like the skin.
So instead of using intrusive and uncomfortable EEG pad to read brain signals, Damir is capturing facial expressions without any electrodes inside, as I discovered in the lab. So we are in Damir's lab now, and I'm seeing this really big head model on the desk. I was actually picturing something like an air helmet, but this is a lot more delicate and also lighter than I think it is. The device that Damir is showing now looks almost like a second layer of skin. Like myself, most people would have imagined it like a big, heavy cap, but this solution looks much more comfortable for patients.
The project I'm on now is reading muscle movements from the mouth. So when you mouth words, you produce distinguishable patterns, and you can decode that into actual words. So for people who can't use their voice box but can still speak, we can map the movements. So if I say hi and hi silently, that is decodable. It is distinguishable from hi and hello. There are ways we kind of posture and position our mouth in the sense that we can decode them.
It's nearly time to leave, as I catch up with Farida again. I'm wondering why she makes time for the Neurotech Society alongside her studies.
I want to obviously focus on being a researcher that works on trying to help people living better, and I feel like your brain is the source of who you are, so like living better starts with your brain, but also like just growth as a person in general, because like there's so many things that got me here, and having someone who has some answers or has some directing questions for you to be able to think about to help you get to where you want to be. I love when I look up to people and I'm just like, that's so cool that she does. I was like, I want to be that.
By this time, it's late enough that the corridors outside are almost empty. For Sean, the clinical neuroscience student who also spends time in the ICU, he only gets a few hours before he has to be back in the ward.
In the near future, my day-to-day probably won't be that dramatic, looking at it from the outside. It'll definitely still be with the clinical team and having hard conversations with families, because these technologies aren't just going to fix everything. But it is a hope for us that it'll allow us to know our patients better.
Some of what they're building now will never make it out of this room, but some of it might. For now, it's all part of the same work in progress, trying to make it a little less lonely and a little less confusing to live inside your own brain.
That was Jay with her package. It was really interesting one, I think. It felt very sci-fi.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, we've both done neuroscience. Have you ever encountered anything like that? Or
I don't know. I've heard about it,
Yeah.
but I've never like actually had the opportunity to actually know as much as I did in this package. So that was super cool.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Wow. So now we will hear the next track, which is One Time by Parallel featuring Jords.
Selector. Easy. One time. We caught vibes and feelings. Yeah, we caught flights and cases. Yeah, we had fights and chases. But now we chase pounds, not pagans. Man's old school like blazers. This one's for my old school ravers. Fist stuck with my local neighbors. Tints up cause I'm low-key famous. It's the middle of lockdown. Treat the ends like Barbados. Blessed, you can't blame us. Stop checking Facebook and Insta. When I clocked, I weren't chasing no status. Push out your bumper, wind up your waist, give out your number, find you a babe. Skank out like it's 2008. Robbie a case, so we celebrate. Long time since I went down to the block. Last time had to roll round with a blade. Just got paid, so I do my money bop. I be like for something there, then I get weighed. Now I'm in a better place, yeah. Old school flex and rave. I might have to call my one and tell her swing my one time past the Bel Air. Quick time, raise that glass in the air. Skank with your 2 foot dancing a chair. Cause we came true this hardical year. Yeah, one time pass me a beer. Come and I roll deep like when I'm here. Skank with your 2 foot dancing a chair. Cause we came true this hardical year. Yeah, one time past the Bel Air. Quick time, raise that glass in the air. Skank with your 2 foot dancing a chair. Cause we came true this hardical year. Yeah, one time pass me a beer. Come and I roll deep like when I'm here. Skank with your 2-foot dancing a chair. Cause we came true this hard little year. Yeah. Bro came home, now we're celebrating. I don't bring family for decoration. We don't do clout or validation. I don't wanna have to get my bro from the station 2 times. So everybody late in. Now I got some peace, some brothers hate it. 1 time for the gal getting paper. Show off your dress, start flexing. When you're humble, they say you're pretending. And I'm old school like Night Legends. Now I'm credit, they call me the Fresh Prince. Interesting, and you know my girl's nice. Side by side like parallel lines. On top, man, I've been through the hellfire. Now I'm in a better place. Old school flips. 1 time past the Bel Air. Quick time, raise that glass in the air. Skank with your 2-foot dancing a chair. But we came through this hard little year. Yeah. 1 time pass me a beer. Come on, I roll deep like when I'm here. Skank with your 2-foot dancing a chair. But we came through this hard little year. Yeah. I've been breaking bread with all my brothers. Call me back when you ain't up to nothing. Praying hard for them days to be over. As we go round and round on this roller coaster. I've been breaking bread with all my brothers. Call me back when you ain't up to nothing. Praying hard for them days to be over. As we go round and round on this roller coaster. 1 time past the Bel Air. Quick time, raise that glass in the air. Skank with your 2-foot dancing a chair. Cause we came through this hard little year. Yeah. 1 time pass me a beer. Come on, I roll deep like when I'm here. Skank with your 2-foot dancing a chair. Cause we came through this hard little year. Yeah.
That was 1 Time by Parallel Feet Shorts. Oxfordshire has become an unexpected hotspot for dinosaur discoveries. This summer, a working quarry just outside Oxford has revealed a remarkable piece of prehistory, one of Europe's longest dinosaur trackways, capturing the footsteps of 2 massive Jurassic dinosaurs. To see the footprints up close and meet the experts interpreting them, here's Scarlett to investigate. 166 million years ago, Oxford looked a little different than how we know it now. This was during the Jurassic era, where mudflats stretched for miles, and across them, massive dinosaurs left their mark.
Archaeology is particularly rich in Oxfordshire. If you think about the fact that it's right in the middle of the country, it is a convergence of animals and geography. So if there is an Oxfordshire story to tell, then we will hopefully be telling it. And we go as far back as, well, of course, the Jurassic era.
That's Gemma Davey, the Museum Service Manager at Oxfordshire County Council's Museum Service. In 1997, when the first dinosaur footprints were found in the Smith's Ardley Quarry, they were dug up and displayed at the Oxfordshire Museum in Woodstock. Fast forward to this summer, paleontologists returned to that same quarry and uncovered something extraordinary, one of the longest dinosaur trackways ever found in the world.
The next station is Oxford.
Right now, I'm sitting on the train from London to Oxford to have a look for myself. But to really see the footprints up close, I need to go where they were found. At the Smith's Ardley Quarry, I'm meeting with quarry manager Mark Stanway, who's going to show me the spot where the tracks were discovered. Is this really quite recent, these ones? Or?
Yeah, so this is the last couple of weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, so you're probably the second person to see it.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah. You hit a hump, and the hump then tells you there must be something behind that, which is obviously the hole where the footprint went into. It's weird, isn't it? Find a hump in a quarry and it's a dinosaur footprint.
So we're standing here looking at the Megalosaurus footprint. It is quite big, I would say, about, what would you say the size is?
It's got about 2 feet long.
Two of Mark's feet long.
And a foot and a half wide, I'd imagine.
And it's rained today, so it's full of water. But you can very clearly see the 3 toes that are spiked. So why don't we start off with, how about you just describe what we are looking at right now?
Okay, so again, from my understanding, so this is the sauropod footprints, and you know what we understand is that when this creature would have walked along here, this hump here, the foot would have gone into the ground and then pushed the sludge up, and then the snapshot in time was basically this was covered over by sort of clays or some kind of sediment, and then it would, preserved it in place.
After seeing the fascinating footprints, I wanted to learn more about the dinosaurs behind them. So I'm meeting with Dr. Emma Nichols, the collections manager for vertebrate paleontology at the Oxford University Museum of Natural History, and the lead paleontologist on the excavation. I make my way from the cold, rainy quarry to the warmth of Emma's office, where she has things to show me. Let me just explain what I'm seeing right now a little bit too. We are now in the back of Dr. Nichols' office, and she's got a lot of fossils back here. She's got rows and rows of fossils.
So this is actually that other animal we were talking about. It's really heavy, so I'm not going to pick it up completely. I'll tilt it towards you. So this fossil in front of us, I would say, is 25 centimetres in height and about 22 centimetres across, and I don't know how much it weighs, but I'm not going to try and pick it up. But what we're looking at is a vertebra of a Cetusaurus. So this 18-metre long herbivorous sauropod dinosaur. And it's massive because it comes from such a huge animal. And this is one of my favourite specimens in the museum, actually, because it's just incredible to show people the difference in size between a vertebra of an animal like a Cetusaurus and then get people to think about the size of their own vertebrae. I mean, they're tiny in comparison.
So now we can picture the two dinosaurs that made the trackways, the enormous Cetusaurus and the 9-metre-tall T-Rex-like Megalosaurus. Terrifying to imagine meeting them on that ancient mudflat. But the real surprise wasn't just the length of the trackways. It was that they showed that these two animals had actually interacted.
The animal was walking at a very regular pace, so its footprints were extremely regularly spaced, up until one point where suddenly it puts its front left foot down for no apparent reason. And if you sort of digitally model the Cetusaurus and put the animal into those footprints, it looks as though the animal has sort of stopped and hesitated and it's looking back over its left shoulder. Now, coming up behind it is a Megalosaurus trackway. The other piece of evidence that suggests that they were maybe there at the same time is that the Megalosaurus footprint, the back of the foot has actually squashed part of the Cetusaurus footprint. So we know that the Megalosaurus was behind Cetusaurus and coming up behind it. And it shows this Megalosaurus sort of hesitantly, I suppose, coming up behind the sauropod, because it's a much bigger animal, the sauropod, the Cetusaurus. And this Megalosaurus and Cetusaurus sort of looking at each other. And we know that the Cetusaurus carried on. It went on its merry way because the trackway carries on. So again, the length of trackway does tell us something about that as well.
Gemma Davies, Oxfordshire's Museum Service Manager again.
I think mainly when people think about kind of dinosaurs in museums, they think about big skeletons and kind of full-size models and bones. And I think what's really interesting about the fossilized footprints is it's not that we can imagine being a dinosaur, but there's something tactile and very physical about knowing that you're looking at the actual imprint that animal made. Just by looking at these footprints, you get a really good idea of how big they were, how heavy they were. And I think it's probably that aspect that kind of makes it a little bit more real than potentially even a skeleton in a way.
How long do they last, the footprints, usually?
The thing is, I mean, that's been there for about a year and a half. And it's just starting to deteriorate now. So I'd imagine with another year, we probably wouldn't even see it. So I don't think they'll last a very long time.
Standing there in the quarry, looking at the footprints filled with rainwater, it's impossible not to feel the scale of time. These marks survived 166 million years, and yet now, exposed to the elements, they might disappear within months. But for the moment, they are here, and so are we, looking down at the exact steps that these dinosaurs made. Oxford might not look like the Jurassic anymore, but the dinosaurs are still here.
So, dinosaurs. We all love dinosaurs, don't we?
Yes. I don't know what made me pick the dinosaur stories, but I'm very happy I did.
It sounded great, yeah. So you went to Oxford, all the way to Oxford on your own?
Yes, I did.
Wow.
Yeah.
How was it?
It was amazing. Everyone was so accommodating. I mean, Mark Stanway at the Smith Ardley Quarry,
Yeah.
he just took me into his car and just drove me around and showed me all the dinosaur footprints. And it's really, really epic.
Wow.
It's super cool.
I'd love to see it. And it sounded cool. Like, you basically went to see all the trackway, right?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
Wow.
Sadly, it's too dangerous to make it, like, into a tourist attraction.
Oh, okay.
Because it is a quarry still.
I'll have to
But
interview them.
Yeah. If you do go to the Oxfordshire Museum in Woodstock, they do have the fossilized footprints on display there. And they have like replicas where you can also kind of walk in them and see how big they were. So if you do want to see that.
I see.
But yeah, big shout out to all three of my contributors. They were all amazing.
Yeah, they sounded lovely, yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely do want to go to like a dinosaur thing because I loved it as a child.
Yeah, for
But,
sure.
yeah.
Oh, and fun fact, the Megalosaurus
Uh-huh.
is actually, so the fossils found for the Megalosaurus are actually some of the first fossils ever found in paleontology.
really?
So they were found in Oxfordshire? Yeah, in Oxfordshire.
Okay.
And yeah, so this was kind of like, it all started here.
They're
So
all
that's why it was super
important then.
exciting.
Oh,
yeah.
I see.
And I didn't even know that when I started, and I'm really happy I do now.
Yeah, you learn a lot, don't you? Like just talking to these experts and
Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
it's super fun. Well, yeah. So our next song for you is "In a Moment Divine" by Freak Heat Waves and Cindy Lee.
Thank
That was In a Moment Divine by Freak, Heat Waves, and Cindy Lee.
In October, the Global Tipping Points report dropped an alarming statement that coral reefs have reached the world's first sustainability tipping point. On the back of this report, I visited the National Oceanography Centre at Southampton, or NOX for short, to shed light on some of the novel coral conservation research. So how can we prevent rising global temperatures from damaging our corals, and why should we care?
This is Southampton on a chilly but sunny day. I'm on my way to the National Oceanography Centre, where I'm meeting Professor Jörg Wiedenmann, who is the head of the laboratory.
So we are here in the reception area of the National Oceanography Centre, Southampton. This is the waterfront campus of the University of Southampton. Here we are showcasing part of the research of the Coral Reef Laboratory. This 600-litre tank shows a whole range of corals which are arranged in a way that they look natural. And you have here all this colorful mixture of corals, and you have some fish and also little creatures like starfish and snails. And they all work together and keep this ecosystem going.
So my very amateur understanding is that coral reefs are very sensitive. Mm-hmm. For example, I can see the temperature settings over here. Mm-hmm. If those even change by like a degree, it'd be very bad for the corals, wouldn't it?
Well, so it depends. They have their natural range within they can adapt to changes in environmental conditions. So you have some coral species which are more sensitive than others. So in general, as a rule of thumb, you can say those with branches, like this particular species, they are more sensitive like others that form this mound-shaped morphology. But then also it depends where they come from. If they come from places where they experience hot temperature on a regular basis, they obviously need to be more adapted to these conditions. And we have corals from the Persian Arabian Gulf, and in their home habitat they experience temperatures of up to 34 degrees, 35 degrees even every summer. So they are more tolerant towards heat stress than corals from the Indo-Pacific that we have, for example, here.
Hello.
Can we just have
Oh,
a
no,
look
it's-
at
Yeah.
for a minute?
It's absolutely fine.
Thank you.
So this is
Cecilia.
Cecilia.
Nice to meet you.
She's the head of this lab, so I was just talking about the research that is going on here.
Yeah.
And
Sorry, we just want to see if some corals are ready for sampling.
This is what life looks like in a busy lab. Colleagues bump into each other all the time. Meet Associate Professor Cecilia D'Angelo checking on some samples. I'm already learning a lot. I always believed that all corals are highly sensitive to temperature, but turns out that some are more resilient than we might think. Each has its own preferred temperature range to grow in. And this is where Cecilia's research comes in. She's studying corals from the Middle East region.
So we are testing corals from the Persian Gulf. They are very heat tolerant, so they are unique and exceptional, and they grow and survive at temperatures that would kill reefs everywhere. So the whole project is trying to understand what exactly makes them so high tolerant, and also to test whether they would survive at conditions in reefs elsewhere, so they would be good candidates for reef conservation.
So, if we can understand why the Persian Gulf corals can withstand heat, perhaps we can help conserve less tolerant species. In Southampton, the labs are scattered in a maze-like structure of the building, each tank producing an enclosed environment controlling light, salinity, temperature, nutrients, and pH. Meanwhile, at Imperial College London, Oliver Kepak's-Choi is also growing corals, not in large tanks in a lab, but on his laptop. He's running computer models of artificial reefs, studying how the structures affect the surrounding ocean currents. Corals can reproduce by releasing sperm and eggs into the water, which then fuse to form larvae that then settle on hard surfaces and develop into a mature coral.
Coral larvae are not entirely passive particles because they have some minimal ability to swim. So from some measurements that I have taken of corals swimming, they reach peak velocities of about 5 millimeters a second in completely static tanks, and then on average swim at about 1 millimeter a second. And if you think about that in the scheme of ocean currents, that's very, very small and is not actually that effective. So you have to think about how flow is being influenced by these structures to create more turbulence, so more water is circulating near the surface structure, but also it's slowing down flow enough that when these small larvae get close enough to it, they can still attach to it.
Artificial reef can replace natural corals, but replacing every single damaged coral in a region is very unrealistic. Oliver hopes that the reef design he comes up with will encourage the natural settlement of coral larvae so that corals can repopulate much efficiently. Back in Southampton, I'm in front of those mesmerizing tanks with brightly colored corals and fascinating marine animals. Who wouldn't want to safeguard such beautiful ocean habitats? But Jörg Wiedemann says it's not just about conservation for the sake of it. What happens under the water's surface, even in distant seas, matters to all of us.
Coral reefs on a global scale are providing massive so-called ecosystem services to human societies. They serve as coastal protective barriers from coastal erosion, from flooding, thereby saving a lot of loss of life, and they are nurseries for fishes, or a lot of fishes depend on coral reefs for their juvenile stages, and then they swim out to the sea. And again, this is important for the local and also global fishery. There are medical compounds that can be extracted from reef organisms, and this is probably something which is very important on a global scale. If you can extract cure for cancer or for a certain type of cancer, then obviously this is of a global benefit, and this applies to people in England as much as it applies to people elsewhere.
Yes, corals can even produce anti-cancer compounds. These are vital life forms, but they are in serious danger. The Global Tipping Points report is very alarming, but Jörg, Cecilia and Oliver are all determined to make sure that future environmental reports make a slightly less grim reading.
That was Kazuma's package on coral reefs.
Yeah, did you enjoy it?
I did. I enjoyed it a
Yes.
lot. I love coral reefs. It's so
Yeah, they look so nice, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you are a keen listener to this radio program, you might have noticed that Oliver, who appeared a few weeks ago on this radio program, also showed up again because his interview was really relevant to what I was making as well. And yeah, I forgot to send him the link, to be honest.
Yeah, for
to
sure.
listen to
You
it. But yeah, I'll
should.
definitely send it to my contributors.
No,
They
it's a
were all
great
so
one.
passionate about
Yeah,
everything.
you
Like
can hear it.
even Jörg, like Wiedemann, who's the leader of the Coral Reef Labs, he was like just so enthusiastic about meeting me, and he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna show you this, I'm gonna show you that." So I was planning my interview to be only about like 20 minutes. It ended up being there for like 2 hours.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Because you went to Southampton for this, no?
Yeah.
And I forgot which one was which, but you did see these tanks with coral reefs in them, no?
Yeah. So that was the one that Oliver showed to me.
Yeah.
So I met him at a reception, and he'd just take me around the National Oceanography Center,
Yeah.
which is massive.
Oh.
And when he was showing it, you could actually hear Cecilia, who's the associate professor, just gate crashed in our interview. And then she just started explaining her research as well, because she was so passionate. And there was another person who was a PhD student, but she didn't want to be on an interview, but she also explained a lot of stuff.
Okay.
And yeah, they were all super helpful, and yeah, they were all great people.
For sure.
But yeah, I think one thing about National Oceanography Center, or NOx, and the Coral Lab over there is that they really care about the sustainability of corals.
Yeah.
So you might think, because corals are technically, or not technically, actually living organisms, when
Right,
you
yeah.
use them in experiments, you might feel like there's some ethical problems. But what Jörg explained to me was that they only take a part of the coral so that they can actually regrow into the normal state.
Right.
So they actually never kill them. And it's also much more sustainable than actually going to the local sites and like picking up corals and using them for experiment, because they're able to just keep it self-contained within their lab.
Okay.
So yeah, that's something that I think is quite unique with
Yeah.
this center, and he seemed quite proud about it.
Do they also do like the coral stuff in England? Can you have corals here in England?
I think up north,
Yeah.
you can have cold corals. I
Yeah.
think somewhere around Scotland I saw it. And I think they do like interact with the local communities, not just in UK but also in the more tropical areas, and implement some of their research into the actual real life situation. And they get help from not just obviously people from University of Southampton, but also from people at Imperial and other universities. I think even University of Liverpool is quite big with coral research. So they participate in this like conference every now and then, and then just exchange research.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really quite big, even if we might think that it's not really relevant in the UK.
Yeah, well, it's relevant for the world, so everyone should be participating.
Yeah.
Anyways, for our last track today, we have New York Grief 86 by Princess Demony.
That was New York Grief 86 by Princess Demony.
And with that comes the end of our show today. Thank you so much to everyone who submitted their packages for today's program.
Yeah, they're all great, wasn't it? Many thanks to Rio, Jay, and of course you, Scarlett, for sharing
and
your
to
piece.
you, Kazuma. Your piece was great.
Yours was great too. And yeah, of course, many thanks to Yellen as well. She's cooking by herself.
Behind the desk,
doing
right?
all the
Producing by
producer
herself.
Just by herself. I know how stressful it is. I was there last week.
Yes.
It wasn't great. But yeah, thank you so much for everyone for contributing to this episode.
And we won't be back for another episode.
no.
It's the end of term.
We
but
might show up.
If you want to email us, you can email us via science19@gmail.com. That's 1 written out and 9 as a number. So that's science19@gmail.com. or leave a comment down below.
And with that, I'm Kazuma.
And I'm Scarlett, and this has been The Last Science at 1.
Of this time.